Hello, welcome to week 7, leg day. Today we are going to start out with squats, and we're going to do Romanian deadlifts, Nordic Hamstring Curl, which is an absolute killer of a workout for your hamstrings, and Bulgarian Split Squats as a finisher, which is a killer of just a workout in general. It will destroy you. If you've never tried Nordic Hamstring Curls or Bulgarian Split Squats, I highly recommend it. Get my shoes on and we will jump into the workout. If you're just joining me, you'll notice I said week 7. This is week 7 of a 20-week cut. So I started in mid to late October, and I'm going to go to the first or second week of March, and the goal is to lose 2 pounds a week. So we're going to try and lose 40 pounds in 20 weeks. So far, we're mostly on track. The first 6 weeks, we have dropped 12 pounds as scheduled. Later today, I will go over my nutrition for the past couple days. I'll check the my weigh-in from this morning, and we'll see where we're at, if we're on track to get to that 2 pounds this week. And yeah, and then we'll do our lifts, and we'll talk about some stuff along the way. I'll get this weight put on, and I'll see you soon. All right, time to do our warm-up sets. My warm-up is always 50% of my working weight. Today we're at 285. I'm calling it 300. I've thrown on 155. Do that for 10 reps, rest 2 minutes. Do that again, rest 2 minutes, then do 75%. And so that'll pump up to 225 or something. And do that for 6 to 8 reps, rest 2 minutes, and then start the working set. And our rep scheme, our set scheme is 3 sets of 4 to 6. So a little bit heavier weight on the squat. It's one of our compound lifts. So we're going to go a little bit heavier and shoot for that strength training rep scheme. And just lowering the camera there a little bit so you can see a little bit lower into the squat. First warm-up set down. About a minute or so to the next one. One thing I want to talk about at some point during this workout is my nutrition plan for the week, knowing that I'm going to go out to eat to a Mexican restaurant on Friday. And I'm going to talk about that in 2 contexts. One is generally what I would do, and then one is like specifically looking at how the calories have played out so far this week, and how my weigh-ins have played out, and how that micro context is going to play into what I actually do. But yeah, not right now. We'll get to that later. Yeah. I'm just gonna go for now. I'll see you back in this warm-up set. Warm-up set 2. I almost started this one without you guys. I had to put the weight back on, start the recording. There she is. Set 2. Alright, this is our last warm-up set. This is, you'll notice, the weights doth change between a half a second ago and now by the magic of movies. But it's 225, so that's, I don't know, roughly, should be about 75%. And we'll do 6 to 8 of these, rest 2 minutes, and then we'll start our working set. We'll go with 7. One thing you can work on your warm-up sets is trying to make your form the same as what it's gonna be on your working sets. You're not doing yourself any favors if you get loosey-goosey in warm-up. Like, you still want to get your feet planted the same way. You want to brace your core. You still wanna be breathing in and embracing your core and getting that isometric hold, and then exhaling on the way up. You still want to have good posture, an upright back. You don't want to go halfway down. If anything, I go a little bit lower in my warm-ups just to work my range of motion a little bit better. And I need to real quick double check the weight. 285, 135, 205, 255, 285. These white and black ones are 15s. The gray and black ones are 10s. In case you're like, is that really 285? I don't know if I believe this guy. You still don't have to believe me. These could be full of air for all you know. I never set my timer. Whoops. Our rep scheme for compound lifts is always 3 sets at 4 to 6 reps. And the caveat, the little asterisk next to that 4 to 6 reps, is it needs to be hard. It needs to be a hard set. And a hard set is just defined as something that is all the way to failure or close to failure. Maybe you've heard the term reps in reserve. That's talking about, okay, if I stop before failure, how many reps did I have left before failure? You definitely want to be within 3. You don't want to have 3 more reps in you, especially at the heavier weight like this. When you're only doing 4 to 6, you really want to get close to that 1 rep in reserve. And it's hard. You're estimating. You're trying to lift this weight, figure out how heavy it is when you get up, and then what your chances are when you get back down, if you're going to be able to come back up. And you're trying to maintain form, and you're trying to be safe. You don't want to push yourself too far and do something unsafe, but then you want to push yourself enough to where you get a good stimulus. So it can be a little bit of a tenuous balance, but you figure it out. You get an idea of how heavy the last rep was and if you're going to be able to get another rep. And sometimes you miss, right? Sometimes you underestimate and you could have done far more. Sometimes you overestimate and you fail. And that's why it's really important to have a good setup. And here, you'll notice I'm not lifting inside of the cage, and that's because the way that my weight storage is when I'm doing my warm-up reps, I don't have enough room on the inside. My weights on my barbell hit the weights that are on the storage. So I squat outside here, but I'm not concerned about it because failing with squat is one of the easier ones to fail with. If you're failing, all you gotta do is boom, fail. You just chuck that weight off your back and you fall forward. Never fall forward with the weight. That's a good way to injure your neck or your back. Always roll the weight off because it'll just roll back and off of you and you just go forward. So I've done that in the past. I've done it enough times where I feel comfortable. I've done it in real gyms. I don't know if you call this gym a real gym, but I've done it enough times in a real lifting setting to know that if I needed to do that, I could do it here. I don't love doing it because this is my home, and like I've got my coffee over there, that would be a mess. I've got the bikes hanging up over here, so there might be some damage, but ultimately I'd rather damage the property than my body. So I'm starting to feel warm and sweaty. We'll do 1 rep at our working set with the sweater and before we ditch it. Luckily I remember deodorant. It's never guaranteed that I remember that. And we're shooting for 4 to 5. That's what we got last week. All right, that's 5. Awesome. Yeah, it looks like last week we did 5, 4, and then 5. So definitely going to shoot for 5 on this next one as well, so that we can hit that progressive overload. Progressive overload doesn't have to be complicated. It just means that you're doing more than last week, that you're pushing your muscles farther. I've known some guys who are really into powerlifting, and they simplify it down so much to where they don't change their rep scheme at all. They're literally just, every week they add weight. Even if it's 2.5 pounds or 1.5 or a quarter pound or whatever, they're just making sure that they add weight. And I think that's very effective for starter lifters, because it simplifies it. It takes all the complexity out of trying to progressively overload. You're literally just, okay, I'm doing 3 sets of 4, or I'm doing 3 sets of 6 or whatever. I'm going to keep that the same. I'm literally just making sure I add a little bit of weight every week. I like my rep scheme that I totally stole from Michael Matthews, and he probably got it from somewhere too, but in his book, Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, he recommends the 4 to 6 rep scheme for compound lifts, because number 1, it's fun because you get to lift a really heavy weight. Number 2, it takes a little bit less time, so your workouts can be a little bit shorter. And then number 3, it's easy to keep track of. So you know that you're hitting 4 to 6. Anytime that you hit 6 reps, you add weight, right? Because really that's all that matters, is that you're increasing your stimulus. And so you increase your stimulus or your volume by either adding reps or weight. And you don't want to have too many moving variables. So by sticking to a dedicated rep range, and then when you get to the top of that range, adding weight, that allows you to ensure that you're getting your hard sets, you're getting your stimulus, your volume is increasing. And volume you can measure one of 2 ways. You can measure it in total tonnage, amount of weight that you lift per week, or you can measure it in total amount of hard sets. So hard sets being, I've got 3 sets of this, and my sets are considered hard sets because I'm getting close to failure. I'm either hitting failure or I'm getting to 1, 2, 3 reps in reserve. So it's a simpler way to measure volume. You don't have to calculate up your weight and multiply that by the amount of reps and sets that you did. But it is predicated on the fact that you are doing hard sets. And one of the ways that you can ensure that you're always doing hard sets and you're progressively overloading is by having a rep range. And then when you hit the top of the rep range, bumping up the weight. All right, here we go. Set 2. At 285, we did 5 on the first one. We're shooting for 5s all around, or 6. If we hit 6, that's the top of our range. We'll go up a weight. And I like 5 there. I feel like maybe I could have gotten one more. It would have been a really hard set, or a really hard rep. All we needed to hit was 5 for progressive overload. So in this last set, I've got to hit 5. It's all relative, within a safe, reasonable room of error. Want to hit 5. If I hit 6, normally what I would say would be, okay, next week, since the last one that you did, you hit 6, go up and wait and start back at 4. With heavy squats, it kind of depends on how I'm feeling that next week. If I'm feeling good, yeah, sure. If I'm feeling a little lethargic, I might let's just double check that. Let's go back to that same weight and try and hit it 6 times just to confirm that we're ready to go up. And if I truly am ready to move up, then I'll hit that one no problem. And then the next 2 sets I do heavier. For stuff I'm more comfortable with, like bench or any of like upper body auxiliary stuff, I'll just move up the weight the next time, because I don't know, it's just not as hard, let's be honest. Yeah. I'm gonna rest a little bit and come back when I'm ready to lift this. All right, it is the next day. I think I am rested enough for this final set of squats. JK, it's only been like a minute since I left you guys. All right, let's try to get 5 or 6 here. Yeah, sure, would 6 have been great, but man, 5 felt like a darn good stimulus. You could tell my form was starting to try and break down. I had to really focus on pushing out those knees and really focus on rooting my outside of my feet to the floor. Yeah, because my tendency is just to let those knees go in. So I've really got to push out like that. And that last rep, I was fighting that. So that's why I didn't really want to do another rep, because number one, maybe I would have failed. Maybe I would have gotten it. But I didn't really feel comfortable in the form and maintaining form. So let me unload some of this weight and we'll get ready for Romanian deadlifts. All right, we're back. Got the weight changed, but I do need a slight costume change. I like to wear flatter shoes, not my weightlifting shoes with the raised heel for Romanian deadlifts, because I want to get more of a stretch in my hamstrings. These platform raised heels are great for helping with my form on squat, and I can't do Olympic lifts in here. You can't see the ceiling, but I can't even extend my arm fully. This is a low ceiling. But yeah, so I just go with my regular cross-training shoes. And honestly, that's fine for the rest of leg day. I don't need the Olympic weightlifting shoes for anything else. I technically don't even need them for squat. It's more of a habit or a comfort at this point. I've been doing it for so long. All right, we got 155 pounds, 9 reps. So again, if we're in that 8 to 12 range, we're right in the middle of that at 9. fact, last week we did 9, 10, 10. So I might go ahead and shoot for 10 this time. All right. And I had a few reps in reserve there. And you may be saying, hey, you are not getting after it as much as you could. You can tell by my tempo and stuff, you're only doing 155, you could do more. And I would say, yes, you're right. Whew. But I have had hamstring issues in the past. And so I tend to be very careful with my hamstrings. I don't want to overly fatigue them. So I have been very careful in this mesocycle, in this whole workout routine, to start a little bit on the lighter side. I think the first week I started way too light. I did 15 or 18 reps or something, but I am trying to get a good stimulus without putting myself at risk of injury. Eventually, at this pace, my weight will continue to rise. Like, I just did 10. I feel like I could probably do 11 or 12 and bump up the weight already. And then eventually that weight would bump up, and over time. And that's the idea. Over time, you want to see progress. So yeah. That's another reason why when I was talking about the workouts for this day, Nordic Hamstring Curls, I pretty much always keep Nordic Hamstring Curls in my leg day. Ever since I discovered them. How did I find them? I think it was the E3 rehab guys. When I pulled my hamstring, they were talking about the research studies of soccer players who pull their hamstrings and things they do to rehab it and things they do to prevent it, and Nordic Hamstring Curls are one of those. I think knees over toes guy, he's really big on Nordics as well. I think the catchphrase is that they bulletproof your hamstrings. And it's true. And it's really unfortunate. Once you've pulled a hamstring, you're like 100% or something like that more likely to re-injure it than someone who's non-injured, or if you, compared to your non-injured leg. So it's really important to add in that preventative workouts and preventative resistance training and other types of forms of workouts. If you're an athlete that, like with soccer or ultimate frisbee or something, that you do sprint interval training as well. But all right, set 2, Romanian deadlifts. There. You happy? I hit 12. Now I have to add weight. And that set actually reminded me of one of the reasons why I did start a little bit lower on the weight. Yes, hamstrings, avoiding injury, but also my grip strength. It's not great. It's not great, not what it should be. So Obviously I have a dedicated pull day where I'm doing heavy deadlifts, but Romanian deadlifts, this seemed like another exercise that I could use to help train my grip strength. So it's actually one of my limiting factors on this lift. So if I feel my arms going before my legs, obviously that's an indication of something. And then they felt like that last set felt like they were both going. But it's a good sign when the first couple weeks, my grip strength felt like it was the limiting factor, and also not wanting to injure and stuff. But so the fact that they're getting close to like feeling fatigued at the same time is good. And I can only see that because of steadily progressing, adding more reps, adding more weight over time. We're in week 7, right? So it's taken me 7 weeks to really feel like, oh, my grip is not the thing that's holding me back here. And there's obviously room to grow there. This isn't a ton of weight. We're only at what? 155 plus 10, 165. Still not a ton of weight. But it doesn't matter what it is now. It matters what is it at the end of this 10 weeks, at the end of this 20 weeks, at the end of a year. Steady progress over time. And comparing yourself to your past self. Not comparing yourself to whoever on YouTube. Don't compare yourself to me or Sam Sulek or any of these C-bomb, any of these people who are like crazy out of this league, out of this world. Compare yourself. How were you last week? How were you a month ago, 3 months ago, a year ago? And sometimes the answer is, damn, I was in better shape. I was stronger a year ago. And that's just information. You just take that information and you process it and you move forward from that. What do you do with that information? If you look back a year ago and you think, I really liked the way that I looked and felt, I don't really like how I look and feel right now compared to me a year ago, then use that as motivation to get started, to get back on it. It sucks. It can be a little discouraging knowing that it will take time. You can't just snap your fingers and look like you did at your prime. You're going to get there the same way you did the first time, in slow progress over time. All right. So we added weight. So we're shooting for at least 8 reps here. Oh, one more than that, yeah. All right, so we got 9, which is great. We'll mark it and move on. Next up is our boy, Nordic Hamstring Curl. I'm gonna catch my breath and move the weights around. Real quick. When I do Nordics, I like to show off my little homemade system here. So, I don't have a fancy Nordic machine where I honestly just don't have the space for it, or like a GHD machine or something. So I just use what I have. If you have a power rack like this, you can use your barbell and I just have it sitting on top of that lower support. And then I've got just two of the lowest strength bands that I have. Number one, because they will stretch, but then I put 2 for a little extra security. And you can see it's not going anywhere. I try and pull up on it. What also helps, I've got these little screws. Where are you looking? You need to look here. These little screws here help keep it in place as well. So if it rolls back, that can be problematic, but yeah, it has worked well for me. I like it. Hell of a lot cheaper than a Nordic machine. Let's see, and it's time. Let's see, last week. Actually, I'm not gonna add weight. One thing I noticed last week on my Nordics, as I reviewed the video, was that I'm bending at the hip a little bit. And that is actually like a regression. It's a way to make it a little bit easier. And so, if I can, today I'm gonna focus on squeezing my glutes and like feeling like I'm gonna try and feel like I'm leaning back. I won't be leaning back probably. I'm gonna try and keep my upper body from bending. And let's see how that, I have a feeling that will make it much harder. I probably won't be able to control it the whole way down. So let's see. That actually felt terrible. I'm actually gonna go off camera, massage my hamstring for a little bit. All right, we're back. Rested a couple minutes, massaged, stretched a little bit. I've talked about my hamstring injury in the past before. I'm not trying to mess around with that. So I'm not going to try what I did last time where I try to keep myself, I'm gonna be okay handicapping this a little bit. And if I feel even just the slightest twinge of discomfort, I'll stop this lift and then reassess whether the final lift, Bulgarian Split Squats, we'll be able to do this week. But just trying to be smart. Really the smartest thing might be to not even try this at all. I'm just going to go really slow though, and we'll see even with if I can do this with my typical modification. Yeah, and the way that I normally do that feels doable. So we'll just be okay with that. All right. And I'll just try and lean back. I won't squeeze my glutes quite as much. I think that was the problem. I was squeezing my glutes and I was just so tight. I was just fully flexed and tensed as I was going down on that first one. So, yeah, that felt good. Trying to lean back, I can feel a little bit more resistance. Ugh, but not a twinge of pain. So, I think we're at 5. And we'll call it 10. I try to overdo it. Call it 10 for today. I just want to, before I do this last set, just be real and be vulnerable with you guys. Obviously, my first set was not planned. I was not planning on almost pulling my hamstring. I just want to, that just goes to show I'm not an expert. I'm still figuring things out. I do fail, and hopefully you can see I was able to come back and modify a little bit to make that work while still trying to be safe. I haven't decided whether I'll edit it out yet or not, but there was an F-bomb. So I'm not trying to be super profane on this channel or anything, and it's really ironic because I was going to share like everything I've been saying about steady progress over time. I was going to share about how at my church, after just dropping the F-bomb, at my church, we have this saying that the world and everyone around you is trying to tell you that you have to do something amazing, something famous, and it's got to be big and it has to be as fast as possible. And that's where you will find your worth. And what we actually find is that our sense of purpose and meaning comes from doing small, mostly overlooked steps of grace over time, just steadily, day by day. And then just like with your spiritual life or your fitness, it's the same kind of principle. And it's funny because every time my pastor talks about it, all I can think about is gains and how they come slowly over time. I should be thinking about spiritual things, but it's such an interesting corollary, and it's like a pretty good, I don't know, metaphor or yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to share that even after dropping the F-bomb, after almost pulling my hamstring. Just wanted to share this kind of interesting overlap of spirituality and fitness. All right, we've got one more set of Nordic Hamstring Curls, and we will try our best not to pull our hamstring and not to cuss. Not that this channel is for kids or anything. Trying to be family friendly if we can. Whew. All right. Let's set up for Bulgarian Split Squat. All right. Now the killer of a finisher, ladies and gentlemen. The Bulgarian Split Squats. If you don't know, Bulgarian Split Squats are essentially a single leg squat with a tripod. You just put your non-squatting foot back on some kind of support, just using my bench. It could be a stool, a bike, a small child, whatever, as long as you can remain stable. And the idea is that you're only putting 5 to 10% of your weight on that foot. Obviously you want most of the weight to be on the squatting leg. And you just will figure out a comfortable distance. You don't want to be too close, you don't want to be too far. And I don't remember how many I did last week. 10 seems good for now. Alright, that's 10. Alright, it looks like last week we did 11. Oh, crap. We did 11, 10, 11. So, let's try to get 11 or 12. We're at 35s. If we get 12, we'll go up and wait. While we're waiting, might as well talk nutrition. Today, nothing. Yesterday, just over 1600. Again, 1600 is our buffer. So we want to be around, we want to be under 1900. We want to be between 1800 and 1900 calories on average for the week. I shoot for 1600 knowing that I am most likely to go over it, so it's a buffer in that respect, but it's also a buffer knowing that if I hit a few days of 1600, that allows me to have 1 or 2 higher calorie days, usually on the weekend. And I'll show you the averages and what that looks like. But yesterday I had my typical protein creatine coffee, and then I had a latte at a coffee shop, did some work at a coffee shop, came home for lunch, some popcorn to stave off the immediate hunger, a protein queso burrito from counter, 2 Chomp mini beef sticks, some caramel rice snacks for something yummy. The salsa was just on the burrito. Protein yogurt was like a late snack after lunch with the apple. All in all, 909 calories. 58 grams of protein. Not quite at that 10 grams of protein to 100 calories that I like to be, but not terrible. Could be worse. Dinner, 38 grams of protein to 438. Closer. I could have had a little bit less of this. I could have had a little less rice. That would help. And this is just like a chicken stir fry with veggies. Since I was a little bit lower on the protein for the day, I had a quick smoothie at the end of the day to try and get some protein. The smoothie is just frozen fruit, plain non-fat Greek yogurt, and some protein powder. So you can see that left us with only 132 grams of protein, which is not the ideal. We're shooting for 180, so we're far below that, but we're close to that 10 grams of protein to 100 grams of calories. Today, I want to hit 1600 calories again. It's Thursday, so that Friday we can go out to Mexican, and let me show you what that kind of looks like from a average. If I go to you can see yesterday 1658, and then the day before 1575. Monday was 1800. But what's cool is that if I can look at the average from last Thursday to this Wednesday, last Thursday being Thanksgiving, and that was a high calorie day, 2600, and then Friday was 2250. So I can see what my average would be with 2 high calorie days in there, and just sneaking in under 1900 calories. So that lets me know that I need to be able to be sticking to 1700, 1600 calories for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days if I want to have 1.5 or 1 day of high calories and a day of lower calories or mid to high calories. Yeah, that's how I think about it. I think about setting my target in a realistic place, knowing that I'll probably go over. And then I also think about what are my target calories? What do I want to be for the average of the week? Real quick, since we're in the app, let's go ahead and look at weight. We weighed in today at 193.3. I could tell I was dehydrated. My urine was not quite as clear as it should be, so I'm a little concerned that my dropping body weight today was from lack of water, and my average for the week should be, we're hoping for 194.2. So I am starting to be a little bit concerned about hitting my 194.2 goal, knowing that I've got one more weigh-in tomorrow morning before having a high-calorie meal. And at the beginning of the workout, I talked about the context of how I would plan my meal for tomorrow. I talked about when we were looking at the calories and the average for the week, that's how I would think about it just in general, without any kind of, within a macro context. I would generally just plan to have my average be about 18 or 1900 calories. Knowing that I'm not quite down to where I want to be, and my high calorie day is tomorrow, and then I just have Saturday to Sunday will probably not be super low either. I don't want to load up on sodium and extra calories tomorrow, and that's really hard to do at a Mexican restaurant. So that is like a micro context of this week, is that I will probably try to restrict a little bit more than I normally would. And normally what I would do in a Mexican restaurant is I would probably just stick to one basket of chips, probably would be realistic. Get arroz con pollo with the queso on the side, and sometimes I might get a small margarita, just because why not? If it fits in the calories, you need to enjoy life. I tend to not drink alcohol in general, so every now and again it's fine. In the micro context of my weight loss this week and my goals, I'm probably going to opt for, number one, keeping a very close eye on the chip intake. I'll probably just grab a pile. I may take my scale and weigh them. That may be overkill. I like to estimate like one Chipotle bag because they have the calories. That's about what basket would be at the restaurant. I might divide my arroz con pollo in half and just eat half of it. And then obviously I won't do a margarita. And we'll see tomorrow, maybe I'll plan it out, actually enter what that would be, and then what I think I might eat the rest of the day, and see what the calories will actually end up being. Because I don't think that I can I don't think it would be wise to shoot for 2,600 calories. I think I probably need to stick closer to 2,000 to 2,200 if I want to hit my goal for the week. Speaking of goals for the week, let's finish this. I think I still have 2 more. Why not? Let's hit 12. We had quite a bit of rest. All right, we did 12. So that means we bump up the weight from 35 to 40. Hip hip hooray. Yeah, I say that kind of lackadaisically, but it is a good thing. I'm just already thinking of next week about being mad at myself. Because right then I taught a long time, had a lot of break, so it was a little bit easier to do more. But I come into these after Nordics, normally right after them. It's going to feel a little bit harder. But thanks for joining me on the workout today. We talked about lots of things. We talked about steady progress over time. We talked about how your fitness journey overlaps with your spiritual journey, just in your meaning and purpose in life. And talked about some practical things about losing weight, managing calorie intake for the week, knowing that you're going to have a high calorie, high sodium, delicious Mexican meal. Yeah, so hopefully it's been a good time. Was it good for you? It's good for me. Oh, let's hit a couple putts while we wait. All right. Get lined up. Oh, it's been a while. That was way too hard. Yeah, all right. No, it's too far left. Come on, let's sink one before we get our last set in. Let's sink it. Come on, get there, baby. Yes. Yes. Here. You can see one in the hole. But we have one more set of Bulgarian split squats. Let's get it. Come on. Where's the weights? Over here. Oh, we went up in weight. So we went up in weight. We're going to shoot for 8 reps. Yes, that's it. See you next time.